Hey guys, what's going on? I've got Zane back on the channel and he's streaming it as well. So yeah, we're looking at 81,000 US dollar Bitcoin. It's not doing too bad. It's starting to make that bounce back. We saw an all-time high last year in October, around 120,000 US dollars. And so we're still down a fair chunk, but it's nothing dramatic, that's for sure. Got any thoughts on the recent price action, Zane?
Well, Joey, you know me. The number that I like paying most attention to is the one right smack bang in the middle of the screen. I think there's a reason why on this particular chart, the US dollar price is quite a small little afterthought there in the sort of top center of screen. So the number I like to pay attention to, Joey, is the 949,179, which essentially tells us tick-tock next block. Bitcoin just trudges along every 10 minutes. New Bitcoin is mined. Right now, 3.125 Bitcoin is the subsidy. You can see just above that to the left, which essentially translates to every 10 minutes, 3.125 Bitcoin, 450 Bitcoin per day as we speak in this particular 4-year cycle. And so, you know, I understand the infatuation with price, Joey, and we can certainly talk about it. I mean, my view is, in a nutshell, I think we had about a 53% pullback from all-time high, which I think we reached in October last year, 126,000. Came back to around 65, if I'm not mistaken, maybe just a tid over that.
Even a little bit lower, actually. I think it was pretty close to 60,000, but
yeah. So when it comes to price, I'm not your guy, but fundamentals, I'm your guy. But certainly when it comes to, you know, the current price, which a lot of people who are new to this space are paying attention to, 81,000. So that's a nice little jump off the bottom, I guess. I got a report from Bisher at Stormrake a day or two ago that they're noticing people really coming back in and stacking quite hard right now. So the general feeling is that the bottom is in. Not to say that we can't pull back further from here, but certainly if you're playing the long game here, which is what, you know, anybody coming into Bitcoin who understands it should be doing, then basically price is really immaterial when it comes to zooming out and looking at the big picture.
yeah, it's interesting because I remember when it was crashing and we sort of reached that nearly 60,000 US dollar mark, and it was a question of, does it go lower? Is this the bottom? And sentiment across retail was really low. Like, it was in complete fear rather than greed. And so we see greed at all-time highs and we see fear at those bottoms. And then there was lots of chats about the next leg down for max pain. When people start to feel that max pain, they finally let go of their Bitcoin at a loss and get out of the market. But we didn't really see that next leg down, and we're starting to see it creep up. So it is going to be interesting to keep an eye on. I know that price is not the main factor, TikTok next block, but I am kind of curious to see, is there another leg down back to the 60s, maybe below 60s? Yes, it's possible, but I think also 150,000 for 2026 is also possible. So it's an interesting spot because we're seeing extreme buying pressure just across the board. We've seen JP Morgan come onto the stage, talk about releasing their own ETFs, and I think they might have already done that announcement. And then we obviously see strategies buying pressure too. Day after day, he keeps rocking up to the table and purchasing Bitcoin. So interesting times for sure, but I'm extremely bullish. Are you sort of bullish in the short term, or is that just a long-term goal you've got there?
No, I'm definitely, I'm always bullish, Joey. I mean, the thing is, I've been around this space long enough to know that any kind of corrections that we have in Bitcoin's price, it's always a fairly temporary thing. Yes, there are, you know, prolonged bear markets, you know, can last for a year or two. I think what a lot of people have to realize, Joey, is that, you know, the correction that we had off the all-time high from October last year, and then we came down to, I think you said, just over 60K. I think that represented about a 53% pullback. And, you know, when I first came into Bitcoin, I had to sit through a 12-month drawdown that was quite a lot more than that. I think it was up, high 60s. Yeah, so the reality is it's very disconcerting. Obviously, if you come in and you deploy 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, whatever it might be, and then you watch the value of your stack in dollars, in terms of its price fall by 20 or 30%, you can feel like jumping off a cliff. But really, that's just the trigger point for you to roll your sleeves up and to study, and to do some homework and to understand the value of what you actually hold, and to realize that the amount of sats that you own hasn't changed. It's just that the denominator, the reference point, for now, that we're correlating with that amount of sats is this decaying fiat currency. And so it's a mind shift. You've got to start, really digging deeper and understanding Bitcoin at a deeper level. Once you exchange your dollars for Bitcoin and you hold Bitcoin, really the name of the game is to just keep stacking, just keep adding to your position. Now, if the price drops, guess what? It's a great opportunity for you to DCA, to dollar cost average in, to lower your cost base. If it goes from 100K to, let's say 50K, okay, just for nice round numbers, and you bought at 100 and then you bought at 50, well, now your average buy price is 75K. And so in order for you to get back to, back in the green, then, essentially all that needs to happen is for Bitcoin to bounce off the 50K mark, by what's that? I don't know, 20%, 30%, something like that. Might be more than that actually, but my maths isn't great at the afternoon. But the point is that, it's all about realizing that we are in the midst of a transition here, and the legacy financial system that we price Bitcoin in at the moment really doesn't know how to value scarcity. It doesn't know how to value this particular asset. And there's a lot of financial engineering and games being played at the big end of town. Bitcoin is a global asset. It's not confined to just Australia or just the US. I mean, it's very much a global asset. And so there's a lot of factors that go into short-term price movements. But if you zoom out, you look at a Bitcoin price chart since January 2009, essentially what you see is that, Joey, right? Yes, it's volatile on the way up, but just draw a straight line. When you zoom out, that's essentially what you see. So, I just like to kind of remind people that Bitcoin is not a trade, it's a revolution. And as time goes on, every sat that you hold is going to become a very, very valuable thing. So that's why I love the name of your channel, mate, Sats Down Under.
I think it's been kind of an interesting journey from that October time. It hasn't even been a year, and I feel like so much has sort of happened. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin's just stayed the same. Like, there's been war involved. There's been strategy changing its sort of company vision. People coming onto the field, people leaving the field, but Bitcoin's just remained the same. And it's how many like wars and things and things throughout the last 16, 17 years has it been through, and it's just the same thing. It's the same protocol. It's the same decentralized network just doing its thing. And that's a pretty cool idea. And I think it's something new for sure. Something that just, new block.
But that's what I love about, why I love you starting with this, Joey, because at the end of the day, this is where the real signal is. That big number there, really what it is emphasizing is that no matter what goes on in the world, how much chaos, how much uncertainty, no matter what the price, no matter what the narrative, no matter how much bullshit is being spun out there, Bitcoin is quite a very stubborn and mundane asset. It just trudges along and just does its thing, regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of what you think about it, regardless of what
China bans it, keeps going.
No one, Bitcoin doesn't care.
Presidents change, and Bitcoin keeps going.
This number here, 9491180, what does that represent? Well, it represents a block every 10 minutes since January 2009.
And a universal time. Like that's
Yeah.
doesn't matter where we are. Whoever's watching sees 4:33 p.m. May 13, and it might be May 12th for them in the evening or in the morning. But we can look at the same time chain and understand that we're on the exact same time the world is all operating on the block height. And that's pretty cool. Like imagine we all start working in that time zone instead of trying to, oh, when do you want to meet? We're in Brisbane, I'm in Melbourne, or I'm in America, I'm in the UK. No, let's meet at block 950 or something like that, you know? And that's a pretty cool concept. I love that
Absolutely.
idea. And I saw, I think, I've forgotten who made it, but they've released an app where when you take photos through the app, it does, oh, we've hit another block. That's 2 in a very short period of time.
Well, it's about 10 minutes, Joey. It's about 10 minutes.
Oh,
mate.
well, one just went a minute ago. It popped up. So
Average block time is 9 minutes, 41 seconds.
Yeah.
Target 10 minutes. So, you know, blocks are being mined quite quickly at the moment because actually on chain, there's not a lot going on, right? If you go to the mempool,
all the miners have unplugged. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that's why, you know, I moved some Bitcoin from point A to point B the other day, and it happens really fast.
And it happens really fast, and it's cheap as chips. Like 0 sats per VByte. That's unheard of. That's less than a sat right now to move generational wealth. Like you could transfer billions of dollars, and it could cost you, like, you know, a few sats. Like that's actually ridiculous. Like just think about that for a second. If you had billions of dollars in Commonwealth or Westpac or ANZ here in Australia, and you tried to move that overseas to someone else's, you know, bank account international, that's just one, it's probably getting rejected. Then you're under suspicion for about 10 to 12 days, probably even longer. And then on top of that, you're gonna have to pay all sorts of taxes to get it through. They take a cut of that, of course. The transaction to approve it takes a huge cut. To move it from one currency to another takes a huge cut. There's so many pieces of the pie that get snatched here and there. Now, if I wanted to transfer all my Bitcoin, say to someone like Robin Sear in Austria, then I could do that in a second and he can receive that. That is just unreal. And it doesn't matter if it's $10. It doesn't matter if it's a bit. Another block. Far out. 3 blocks in less than 10 minutes. That's unbelievable. I love watching this thing. It's low-key addictive. Looks like pokies a little bit.
So we got a few viewers here, Joey. So maybe we should encourage a few comments if you're here. You know, it's only a small crowd, but let's welcome.
I chucked Matthew on the screen there. Thanks for coming Matthew. Along.
Thanks, appreciate you being here. If you got any thoughts, questions, comments, let us know. We're just starting these live streams, so it's just fun to jump on and kind of wing it a bit and see who shows up. So appreciate you being here.
And then watch 3 blocks get hit in less than 10 minutes. That's pretty special. I find that cool. As in the future, that won't really be happening. I think Bitcoin will, all those transactions.
But this is cool, man, because this is high signal stuff. Like you can go and watch 100 Bitcoin podcasts and you'll never see that. Right? Yeah. This is what's cool. And there's a lot of, you know, people who'll probably watch this once it gets posted after the live. They'll watch it later, and who will never have seen that, Joey. They will have never have seen a block go, transition in a 10 minutes. So it's a pretty cool thing to look at.
Yeah, I was showing my dad. I was using Sparrow Wallet. And you can sort of watch Bitcoin transactions on there, and you can watch transactions clear and transactions exit, because it can tell you when it's in the mempool and when it's been settled. And you can track that. Bring up
mempool.space.
Yeah, okay. So mempool.space is basically where you can watch any transaction get settled on the Bitcoin network, basically saying it's reached final settlement from one wallet to the next.
Can you share that screen?
Yeah, I'm going to get it up now. mempool.space. Share this tab instead. So yeah, we can watch. So on the right side where they've got the block heights, 949,182 was the last one. Those are all previous transactions, all previous blocks, I should say. And they're full of transactions. You can see some of them have 6,000, some have 5,000, some have 4,000. That's how many transactions people are transacting every 10 minutes. and they're full of those transactions. They're stamped now in the blockchain, and they're not going anywhere. And so we haven't had a single block recording on the blockchain since its inception, which is actually insane. And this is pretty much a public ledger of all the transactions going from one wallet to another and being settled, final settlement. Not a pending transaction like the banks, being stamped into the blockchain for permanent living on the blockchain. It's just insanity. And then we can see these green ones on the left here are getting full of transactions, but they're going to be future blocks. And the higher you pay for your transaction fee, the more priority it gets put into the next block. If you really wanted it to settle as soon as possible and be in the next block and sort of become competitive for that space, you can increase your fees and fast track it through pretty much into the next block. Whereas if you go,
yeah, but we're not talking about a lot of money, are we, Joey? We're talking about a couple of cents to maybe 60 cents or something like that.
It's so cool. Like, yeah, if you wanted that super high priority to clear $1 billion, you could pay, say, 50 cents, and then it's guaranteed to be in the next block because that miner is going to see that transaction fee and put that through over someone that's paying 1 cent. So it's really just like a bidding game, but you're bidding with cents. This is not, you might even be able to clear that $1 billion into the next block with 5 cents. It's so cheap right now. And then you can see the ones further down, they're going to be future blocks on the left there. Those are people, that aren't paying as much, and they're going, I can wait 24 hours. I'll just pay 1 sat. I'll pay less than a sat. I'll pay half a sat. They're dealing with microsats already, which is just unbelievable. And that's just such a cool concept. So we're going to see this green one tick over soon, that next line, and become a purple block. There you go.
There we go.
It's stamped in. Now it's no longer 949182. It's 949183. And so we're gonna pass 1 million blocks soon, which is going to be really cool. And you can probably predict based off the 10-minute or the 9.7 minute average when that's going to be. And I could probably, you share your thoughts on that, Zane, while I pull up when that 1 million block will be hit.
Yeah, so this is just a really cool illustration as to what's happening under the hood with Bitcoin. Now, most people who come into Bitcoin, it takes them a long time to kind of understand this and be shown this because most people are still thinking of Bitcoin as a trade. They don't understand the mechanics, the fundamentals, what happens on chain, how Bitcoin works, how it moves from point A to point B on this giant ledger in cyberspace that we call the blockchain. But this just gives you more of a sense of how this actually works under the hood. So all of these little names under the purple blocks, SecPool, Mara, Antpool, they're the miners. So these are the companies that are investing big dollars in running their mining rigs and are all competing pretty much every 10 minutes to win a block, because when they win a block, right now they get rewarded with a subsidy, which of course is the 3.125 Bitcoin. So Joe, if you just click on, say, the last block, 949183, if you just click on that block, what we can see here is, if you just look there on the right, subsidy plus fees, essentially that miner, SecPool, they just generated $253,709 US.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they had to compete this lottery that happens every 10 minutes to solve this complex algorithmic problem, and they had to compete with all of the other miners to win that block. But as you can see, the reward is quite substantial if you win it, right? $250,000. Now, not only did they win the 3.125, which is the subsidy,
they won an extra.
But they also got the fees. Okay,
0.007 in fees. So
yeah. So, but it's not a lot of money, is it? Because $600 odd. And how many transactions were in that block?
Oh yeah, probably 5,000, close to 5,000, I think.
If you just go up
6,343.
So super cheap. I mean, what's that? Is that a cent or 10 cents? 10 cents per transaction.
Yeah,
6,000 divided by 600. Yeah. So it's about 10 cents per transaction. So as you can see, very, very cheap, and really doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you sent. So it's a very, very cost-effective way of transmitting value peer-to-peer.
So cool. So cool. Yeah. And one thing I wanted you guys to know, if you guys are in the comments, is as I'm showing my dad this recently, how this works, the mempool, Sparrowwell also helps show these transactions. He went, oh, so every time I buy Bitcoin on an exchange, a transaction is made. And I said, not necessarily, because that's kind of an IOU on an exchange. It's not genuine Bitcoin on the blockchain. Maybe some exchanges do pull it off the market, transact it into maybe your own private wallet. I think Strike does that with Jack Muller's. I'm not saying all of them do it, but I'm saying most likely the one that you're on, you should probably look into, because the reality is they're not actually doing genuine block on the blockchain Bitcoin network, genuine Bitcoin transactions. They're probably just doing an IOU. Oh yeah, send him the funds, make it look like he owns this percentage of Bitcoin, but it's probably not a one for one Bitcoin. So that's why we say pull it off into self-custody, because suddenly they have to give you the keys. They have to give you the genuine Bitcoin. They have to pull it off the network and give it to you. And if they don't, then that's obviously, that is invading your property rights. That is going against your property rights buying on that exchange, because they're meant to be guaranteeing you that when you decide to withdraw, they give you the Bitcoin. So legally, you should be covered, especially if you're using the mainstream exchanges, but they're probably going to be a bit of a pain in the ass for you. And that's something that happened with my dad. Tried to pull money off an exchange. I won't name the exchange, but it's a popular one here in Australia. And they now want to book a call with him and say, we want to verify your withdrawals or verify this. And it's like, that's just proof. Like, they don't have the Bitcoin there and there ready to go. And they don't want him to pull it off. They're probably generating fees. They're probably sending his money around like a bank, making interest on it. So
what they want, Joey, and I mean, all these big exchanges sponsoring the AFL and the Formula One and all that, right? The big exchanges, we see them on their footy jerseys and all that. They want you to trade on their platform. Every time you trade on their platform, they generate fees. What they don't want is for you to buy the hard asset and withdraw it into your own self-custody. They don't want you to do that. And so they're just creating all this friction around that now, which is unfortunate. And that's why, we recommend that you go with a full service brokerage wherever possible to buy your Bitcoin, because you don't have to put up with all that crap.
And they also, someone like Stormrake, which we both recommend through Bisha, he's pretty much pulling that Bitcoin off the market, like straight Bitcoin. Typically, it's released by miners straight onto the market. And guess what? He's going to get the lowest bid for you. So yes, he has that little brokerage fee spread, but he's getting the lowest price Bitcoin that he can get for you, whereas an exchange will chuck a huge premium on it to basically suck you in and make their money for the day. And also, yeah, he's got genuine Bitcoin. Like, that's the difference. He's not doing an IOU. He's already got his self-custody set up through the business, ready for that Bitcoin to be withdrawn straight away. He's not going to give you any dramas. He's probably going to sort that out with, under 10 minutes. It might get you to test a wallet, test that first, and then send the rest through. So we can't recommend Stormrake highly enough because of that reason. And I just wanted to put this up, Zane. If you can read it, it's a bit of an eye killer, bit bright, but this was AI's prediction.
Man. It's a beauty, though.
It's pretty much, I'll just read it out for those that are squinting. But this was AI's prediction of when Bitcoin will reach block height 1 million. So, approximately
less than a year away.
Yeah, 949,000 block height roughly. We want to get to 1 million with the blocks remaining around 50,000. Average block time at 9.7 currently. That can go up and that can go down. So it might get there a little bit faster. It might get there a little bit slower, but just it's going to be around there. And then, yeah, we can see we're pretty close, like 94.92%.
I wonder what's going to happen when we get to 1 million, that millionth block.
Oh, I think something special will happen. I think
something
Bitcoin reach $1 million or something.
Maybe a Y2K. Oh. Yeah, a Y2K moment in reverse or something like that.
Yeah. Everyone thought the world was going to end, and then life just continued.
Yeah.
Oh, so
So
cool.
no, it's very cool, mate. Very, very cool
Pretty
stuff.
much a
Very
year
cool
away,
stuff.
everyone. So get yourself some Bitcoin, get it on the Bitcoin network, block it, stamp it into the blockchain, and track that transaction because 50,000 blocks away, we're going to be at 1 million. So I think it's a pretty cool way that you can stamp your initials almost into history in that sense. Going, yeah, I was a part of Bitcoin block. I was part of. I'm going to buy on the Bitcoin block 1 million. I'm going to try and get a transaction in the 1 millionth, just to say that I was a part of it.
So, Joe, what's the main obstacle for people now coming into Bitcoin? Is it the fact that it's 110,000 Australian dollars to buy a whole Bitcoin? Are they worried they're going to lose money? They don't trust themselves, to obviously be their own bank. What do you think? What do you think are the biggest objections? What about for people like in your generation?
Yeah, I probably can
They
speak.
just don't have the money. They got no spare cash. What is it?
It's still an unknown. I think we're unfortunately, even with the demand we can see across the board and we sort of understand what it is, it's just the unknown of what it is. And it's also so much distraction. People my age are looking for the next big AI stock, and that's taking a lot of eyeballs away from Bitcoin right now. But I think that's only temporary. I think as AI starts to normalize and we see that it just becomes another technology, a part of this world, then those stocks will settle down, start to even out. And even if they go on a huge bull run, eventually that just becomes a part of normal life. Like the dot-com bubble, for example, that was a huge rave. That was all the noise. And then all of a sudden, as the dust settles, some businesses get destroyed, others become the winners. And we can see the tech stocks on the back of that became the winners of the world. And then it just became normal life. Google, Amazon, Apple, all of it just became adoption in this real world. And then we moved on to the next best thing. And so now that's looking like AI/Bitcoin. It's just going to be a tug of war who gets the attention. But I think as the dust settles, we'll see that Bitcoin is going to be able to capture a lot of AI's productivity. And people will go, damn, I wish I owned something scarce. And so I think another competitor to that right now for young people, they're actually considering silver and gold. They're literally, Joey has serious vocal fry. There's something wrong with my audio. Let me see how it goes.
Who said that?
Just some bloke. Is that better or is that worse?
Oh, I've got you.
How's that saying?
Everything sounds good to me.
All right, someone else that I can sort of trust, maybe Matt, can you let me know if my voice is absolutely cooked or if it's fine? I was saying
it's good, man.
another competitor to that is gold. So I'm hearing young people literally say, oh, I bought a bit of silver, I bought a bit of gold. So even precious metals are taking a little bit of the spotlight at the moment. But I think as silver has had a huge correction, as gold's even starting to come down and sort of settle down to reality, people will go, oh, maybe it had its biggest bull run in the last 20, 30 years, and maybe it's time for it to settle down. Maybe that's not where I should park my capital. And so, yeah, young people are just looking for the next train that's going to send them to the moon and give them a lot of money. Like crypto was like that, NFTs were like that. And now, and meme coins, for example, everyone was buying pizza coin and dog coin and all sorts of things. I think as the dust settles, we'll see Bitcoin as the winner and start to take that focus. Hence why I'm trying to post a lot more about Gen Z and people in their 30s as well, sort of early millennials, and say, hey guys, I know there's so much distraction and I know that you feel so much pressure under the cost of living and you're getting scared about buying a house because it seems ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. It's quite of a rational decision in my eyes. But you need to consider this thing that's completely scarce. Like 21 million coins, nothing's going to beat its scarcity. And I can go into the rabbit holes of how, gold isn't as scarce as people think, silver's not as scarce as people think. AI stocks, how are you going to pick the winner? There's going to be probably 10 million losers before there's the official winner that takes the crown. Like, look how competitive it is now. We all thought ChatGPT won, and then we had these other Claude enter the market. We had DeepSeek enter the market. It's time to take a bit of market share. We could have another winner around the corner that could become the next Nvidia, for example. How do you pick these winners in stocks? It's more volatile than Bitcoin right now. I'm seeing some of these stocks go up 100% overnight just because they randomly got some funding from some big tech bro. And how are you supposed to pick that? You can't. It's too unpredictable. It's going to be so hard to pick the winners. And I just think Bitcoin is already the winner and has already won, and it's going to continue to be the winner. And it's just going to be a matter of time. That's just how I see it. But I'm trying to preach that message now, Zane, for sure.
You just dropped out on me a bit there, mate. So I kind of missed just a little patch of that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah, look, it's I think for me, my view is, are we entering the digital age or are we returning to the Stone Age? Because if you have the belief that, you know, everything is happening in accelerated form and being digitized and tokenized and AI and all of that, then, you know, if you want to claim on the future of money, then for me, the only play is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, Bitcoin has already proven itself. I mean, it's been around for 16, 17 years, long enough to know that we know that it's not going to fail.
Yeah.
But early enough to know that we've got enormous upside ahead of us. If you go and speculate now on a crypto, which has a CEO, a board of directors, an issuer,
A pre-mine.
pre-mine, all that unlimited supply, you are really just taking a speculative punt that you know that it might work out. You know, with Bitcoin, there are so many fundamentals of Bitcoin that make it or give it that robustness or that certainty, right? And the visibility and the verifiability that you have. And we just sort of alluded to a couple of the tools that we use that enforce that and show that. And so if you want a degree of certainty in your life and you want to sleep well at night and you want to park your savings in something that has proven itself over a long period of time, but that still most of the world still does not yet understand. I mean, for me, that's the power of Bitcoin, right? But of course, everybody wants 100x, 200x, 1000x, and all this sort of stuff. But the reality of that is it's not going to happen, right? It's like it's 1 in a million that you'll be able to pick that winner, and then are you sure you're going to be able to sell it at the right time? Are you equipped to deal with the consequences of selling it? You know, there's a whole bunch of things that come into play that basically make the chances of you pulling that off quite small. So. Yeah. And I'm in the camp. I'm not even sure that we're going to see another alt season anyway. So when it comes to cryptos,
Nah.
You know, my view is that it's pretty much all over, and that the only play right now, moving forward, if you want to be calm and to have no anxiety and to sleep well at night, is Bitcoin. You know, and I just think young people should be focusing on their jobs, their careers, you know, whatever it is that they can do to just spin the dollars and then work out a budget to the extent that they can save a portion of their income methodically, consistently, no matter what the price is, stacking sats, just stack sats. Now, right now you can buy 1 million sats for what, about 1,100 Aussie dollars. Have you got a converter there? You can bring up Kraken's got one. Yahoo, maybe just bring that up, Joey.
Yes, let's go 1 Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin in Aussie dollars. Share this tab instead. Is that all right?
Yeah. So there you go. So we got 1 million sats. Does that top line BTC can you convert that to sats?
No, I don't think so.
Just type.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just gonna be Bitcoin. Yeah. I can do another one, but yeah, you continue. I'll get another one up.
You get the gist of it, but basically, you know, I like to think in nice round numbers when I'm helping people on board and kind of get a foothold and a stakeholding in Bitcoin, and you know, everybody puts their mind to it can put together a put together $1,000 to buy 1 million sats.
Yep, let's chuck in. That's 1 million sats.
It's 1 million sats. 1 million sats is...
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to
1 million sats. So there you go. This is a good little converter here on BitPo, because you got the sats at the top, 1 million sats. You got the Aussie dollar price, which you'd pay today roughly to acquire that 1 million sats, and then you've got the denominator in Bitcoin. So there's 100 million sats, 100 million satoshis per Bitcoin, and that's why 1 million sats is 0.01 Bitcoin.
Yeah, if you can read that.
Yeah.
It's got 100 million satoshis, which is 1 Bitcoin is around 111,000 Aussie dollars. And then as you go down the ladder, you got 10 million satoshis, 1 million satoshis, 100,000 satoshis, etc. So infinitely divisible.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Now the other thing, Joey, bring up the reverse CAGR calculator.
Yeah, I'll chuck that on.
So look, my view is anybody can make a start here, right? Anybody who wants to learn about Bitcoin and get a foothold into Bitcoin, what we're suggesting is get yourself to 1 million sats for about 1,100 Aussie dollars.
Do you know what brand?
Reverse CAGR, CAGR. You just put it into Google, it'll come up. Reverse CAGR calculator.
I'll just show you this one, and then do you know?
Yeah, that's it. Top one there. Yep. Okay. So if you were to put, let's say, 0.1 Bitcoin, 10% of a Bitcoin, so that's 10 million sats, which, hang on a sec, 10 million sats right now, let's call it 10 grand. Let's call it 10 grand. And if Bitcoin was to run at anything like what it's done over the last, excuse me, my puppy.
I'll just mute you for a second, Zane. Give me a thumbs up when you're back. Let's just continue. I'll chuck this on this one. And let's go, let's say 30%. Number of periods for the next 10 years. Let's go calculate. Future value. Wow. All right, I'll bring you back, Zane. Oh, not yet. Yeah, so we can see that you put 10 grand in, 30% for the next 10 years can be worth nearly 140,000 Aussie dollars, which is just insane. And you can play around with this. You can make this 40%, for example. Let's keep this 10,000, 40, let's keep this 10, calculate. What if it goes up 40%? It just, because it's compound annual growth rate, that means that the amount of, I guess you can call it profit you make year over year is going back into the existing principal. So that's what the power of compound is. And so, oh man, imagine if it continued 50%, for example, at that 0.1 Bitcoin for the next 10 years. So 10 years brings us to 2036. We've got over 500,000 Aussie dollars. This is insanity. Now let's assume that we bought one whole Bitcoin, which is around that price today. And let's say that went up 30% for the next 10 years. You've got $1.5 million. I'll bring you back now, Zane. Just give me a sec. And you're unmuted. You back? Not yet. Still looking. Can you hear us, Zane, or? Zane, do you want to try speaking? No. I'll leave you off mute. Yeah, $1.5 million Bitcoin is definitely doable. That's only 30%. year over year. That's what it's been doing for the last 5 years. Imagine it continues that for the next 10 years. $1.5 million Bitcoin is very, very possible. Now, I like to even imagine 50. Oh, are you back, Zane?
I'm back, bud. Yeah.
What did you want to plug in for the audience here? I've mucked around with a few, but we can go through it a bit slower.
No, I think you had it right before. You can play around with this till the cows come home, and it's a great little tool because it just helps to create
Let's
some
do
context.
$21,000, 0.21 Bitcoin roughly, and let's do say 30% over the next 10 years. That's very conservative in my eyes. Like, that's obviously opinion based, but it's done 30% the last 5 years, and I think for the next 10 years it's going to probably outperform that. So we could look at 40 to 50% even next. But yeah, 0.21 Bitcoin, look what it can become. Nearly 300,000 Aussie dollars. That's just pretty insane.
Yeah.
What other asset, what other store of value, what other money is going to be able to perform at that rate? If you were to save that in the bank, it's still going to be $21,000 on paper in 10 years, but it's going to be worth probably less than half that in purchasing power with the rate of current inflation.
Yeah. And look, this really speaks to the scarcity of Bitcoin, right? Because in assets, generally speaking, scarcity is what generates value. And this is why, well-located real estate, harbourfront, beachfront, inner city, that's why it typically performs the best, because it's the most scarce and desirable, right? So when it comes to Bitcoin, the reason why it has been the best performing asset of all time is because it's the most scarce asset. It's the most scarce form of money. Now, it's not to say that it's not volatile throughout cycles and in the short term, but again, when you zoom out and you look at, 4 years, 5 years, 10-year cycles, what you see is that Bitcoin is outperforming everything. Now, there's a school of thought. I mean, Michael Saylor is well quoted as saying, he thinks that Bitcoin over the next 20 odd years it's going to run at around 30%. But, I'm not 100% sure about that. I think it's going to perform far better than that. And the reason for that is because when you've got an asset that is hard capped, and the issuance in order to get to that hard cap is going down every 4 years, and the availability of supply of Bitcoin is reducing, not increasing, and you've got unlimited demand coming for Bitcoin, not just institutional money, but there's billions of people around the world who in the future, in the not too distant future, are going to be looking for ways to save their, park their savings in a scarce monetary system, right? And so unlimited demand, limited supply is going to generate exponential growth. And so I'm in the camp that, Bitcoin is likely to CAGR very much similar to what it's done over the past 10 years. I see no reason why, when you have a scarce asset that is the issuance of it that is going down over every 4 year cycle, I have to see no reason, when you've got unlimited demand coming for that asset, that it's not going to continue on its current performance trajectory. So yeah, I'm yet to hear a valid argument, Joey, as to why Bitcoin will not continue to run at 40, 50, even 60%, So, but either way, even if it doesn't do that, you're still going to be light years ahead of putting it into, industry superannuation, which is running over the past decade at, 7.5%, stocks, bonds, share portfolios, all of these assets have their place, but it's very difficult to compare them to Bitcoin when Bitcoin is sort of outperformed them to the tune of 8 to 9 times over the past 10 years. It's very difficult to just keep dismissing and ignoring Bitcoin on that basis.
Yeah. I just thought before we wrap up, because I know you got to go soon, answer a few questions. Do you have any thoughts on the new capital gains tax rules here in Australia? I think it was released in the last couple of days. I'm not sure if you've covered any of that.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, obviously the budget came out last night, and there's been a lot of commentary around it. Apparently the plan is that I'm still getting my head around it, to be honest with you, Joey, but apparently they're going to index the cost base to inflation. And so, the difference, if you choose to sell your asset, will be, I'm not going to say minor, but you're going to pay more tax than you currently do. But it's not huge. So essentially it'll be indexed for inflation, the cost base, and then I think it's 30% of the gain.
Yeah.
Whereas historically, if you bought an asset for $10,000 and then you sold it a few years later for $50,000, you have a $40,000 gain, right? So long as you'd held that for more than 12 months, they'd cut that $40,000 in half, so 20 grand, and you'd be assessed for tax purposes on that 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be applied to your marginal tax rate. Okay,
Now
so
it's
if
been
you're on the
increased.
top, well, no, they're just going to index the cost base to inflation. So if it's confusing, right? But so your cost base might maybe be 11,500, something like that. So instead of it being 10, so that's going to reduce your profit that you're assessed on. However, now you're paying 30% of the gain as a flat rate. So it actually works out that on a 40 grand gain, it works out you'd pay about another $1,500 to $2,000 in tax under the new system as opposed to the old system.
Yeah.
But yeah,
won't be selling my Bitcoin anytime soon, that's for sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And this is why when you exit and you hold your Bitcoin outside the system, it's probably best that you keep it that way. And not.
Yeah,
and again, this talks reinforces with our original message today, Joey, and that is that Bitcoin is not a trade. There's no reason to sell your Bitcoin back into dollars. So, in that sense, not a lot for you to worry about unless you choose to do that. So. But of course, a lot of people will trade cryptos, and they'll trade Bitcoin, they'll trade houses, real estate, stocks. They'll trade stuff, and they'll be caught up in these new CGT rules. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that the difference between Bitcoin and a lot of assets that are stuck in Australia, like Aussie real estate, for example, is that if you don't agree with these new rules, you don't agree with what's coming around the corner, and we're not going to get into that like today, what could happen. But if you don't agree with it, then you can up and leave with your Bitcoin. Non-financial advice, and I would never say do anything like that, but you can do it hypothetically. You can flee the country, go into another country, and
look, it's definitely one of the attractive features of Bitcoin, the fact that it is very portable and global. And if you're holding it in deep cold storage in self-custody, and you're running a node and you're doing all those kinds of things, then yeah, it's something that you have in the back of your mind is that if living in the country that you're in, if it becomes hostile and untenable, and you just have had enough, and you're sick of every breath you take, getting bashed over the head, then yeah, maybe it's a consideration for certain people who are in a position to do that. I mean, I'd much prefer to see a situation where we vote these buggers out and we have proper tax reform. If they want reform, a budget, what's a budget really about? Just delivering bad news on how much more we can tax you? I mean, that's what a budget is these days, right? When you hear it from a politician, there's nothing empowering or financially liberating or helpful in what I've seen in the small, the small sound bites that I've seen from last night's announcement. So, look, it is what it is. It's the state of the world right now. We know that governments around the world are essentially insolvent. They're in more debt now than they've ever been. We know that laborers are the masters at spending money that they don't have. and then they're going to tax the living hell out of everybody to pay for their promises. And so in that environment, I think we're going to reach a point at some point where there's going to be a faction of society who are going to have the optionality to say, stuff this, I'm out of here, right? And obviously a lot of people can't do that, Joey, but there will be definitely people, and particularly people who have managed to hedge themselves, create a degree of decentralized financial wealth, that they'll be able to move on. So it's crazy times. Yeah, absolutely crazy.
I mean, I don't want to get into my thoughts on tax, but tax here in Australia, it creates the illusion that you're contributing to society. It creates the illusion that you are a part of this nation and building the roads, and they speak that narrative into your situation and go, tax the rich, we can fund all these things that we spend our money on. But the reality is they're in $1 trillion of debt now. So they haven't been good with the money that we've given them. They haven't been good, and they've been printing currency and driving inflation. And so the reality is that's all sort of an illusionary system in itself. The very fact that they can
but it's
print
not
the
just
dollars.
that, Joey. I mean, Milton Friedman back in the 70s, he was a prominent free market economist, and he's famous for saying inflation is taxation without legislation. Yep. Inflation is taxation without legislation. So basically they're taxing you through monetary expansion, okay, by printing money, currency debasement, quantitative easing. There's all these, formal fancy terms for it, but essentially they're just diluting the value of your savings. Your purchasing power is going down when you save in dollars, because they're driving more and more currency into the market, into the economy, right? And so when they do that, people who get punished the most are those who are working hard for a living, saving their paycheck in dollars, trying to make ends meet. Price of everything around them is going up. House prices are going up exponentially. And so basically they've got zero chance. And this is why there are so many people now who are living hand to mouth, and we know that more than 50% of the Australian population is in some way, either directly or indirectly, dependent on the government for survival, right? Be it pensioners, be it working for the bureaucratic system, the unproductive sector. I mean, they're dependent on it, and so it's just a shame. And we are entering an era where people are going to really start to think very seriously about where they want to base themselves in the world, because there's a lot of other options. And as beautiful as Australia is as a country, and as much as we have going for us in terms of our surroundings and clean streets and beautiful air and beaches and natural resources and nature, we've got so much going for us, and yet we're being run into the ground by people who shouldn't be running the place. But unfortunately we've got a population that is complacent, and they'll just keep voting these clowns in because they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll pretty much wrap it up there. But I thought at the end of every live stream, which is hopefully weekly to fortnightly, we can end with the Bitcoin wealth ladder, just run through it quickly, and then we can say, see you later. Do you have any thoughts on the Bitcoin wealth ladder?
You didn't want to talk about politics, mate. I get that.
No, I also just didn't want to end with politics.
You didn't want to end on a low.
No,
the Bitcoin wealth ladder.
The main picture.
Yeah, and we love that. We love the Bitcoin wealth ladder. It's a great little visual, brings context and meaning to why we're stacking sats. And like I said, Joey, anyone can participate. They just got to make the decision to do so. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Stop thinking that you have to own one whole Bitcoin. Stop saying that it's out of reach. Stop saying that you've missed it. Stop saying that you're too late. Stop saying that you don't understand it. Just understand that this is a financial revolution, and you have the ability to participate. Everybody has the ability to participate. There are people in Africa right now who are participating who have never even had a bank account. Central America, countries that have been crushed by hyperinflation. right? People understand what it's like to have their livelihoods decimated, and Bitcoin comes along and it gives them this opt-out, this choice, this financial autonomy, this financial liberation that they've never had before.
Yeah.
And these are people who are earning $50 a week, if that.
Yeah.
You know, and what are they doing? Downloading a Bitcoin wallet on their phone. They're trading in sats, right? They know that nobody can steal that money from them. They don't have to worry about going to a bank and having the bank shut their door in their face.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those people, they're the true heroes. They're in terms of the general population. I mean, I'm not talking about the institutions here, but in terms of the everyday person, those people, they're really leading the charge in terms of, you know, the sovereignty side of Bitcoin. And I think we need to take a leaf out of their book, Joey, and this kind of speaks to that in the sense that everybody can participate. Choose your level, start low and grow, start at the survival level, million sats, get on the board for about $1,000 Aussie today. But don't leave it, don't wait, because, you know, it won't be long. It'll be 2,000, then it'll be 5,000, then it'll be $10,000 to buy a million sats.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for my age, if you're in your 20s or 30s, I think you can get to 0.1 Bitcoin here in Australia. It's around $10,000. You've probably spent that on other things, a car, maybe uni, books, etc. But no, you need to try and get between that comfort and generational bracket. And then I think 0.21 BTC is on the cards too. If you can really grind and really hustle in these younger years, you can lock away that elite status and be the richest 1% of holders for sure. Just wanted to end with that.
Perfect stuff,
So
mate.
appreciate
Great
your
wrap.
time, Zane. Thanks everyone for the chats. We've got to head out now, but we'll try and be here weekly, if not fortnightly. So stay tuned for that. Thanks, Zane.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
showing up, people. Appreciate you being here, Joey. All the best, buddy. We'll see you in the next one, mate.
Sounds good, mate.